Welcome to the Busy Guy Show. My name is Vince LoCascio, and I'm a busy guy. Today I've got a really busy guy here today, Anthony Abruzzo. He's president of Forza Design and Consulting, Inc., and presently architect and construction manager at Cinespace Chicago Film Studios. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Vince, thank you very much for having me.
Really a pleasure, because I know you, and I mean it when I say you're a busy guy.
Thank you very much.
Let me ask you, did you know, as you were growing up, you wanted to be an architect? Or?
I got to say, definitely from the get-go. Prided myself, as my parents tell me, I had a fascination for Legos, constructs, tinker toys, anything I can get my hands on, anything that I could replicate, put back together, destroy, and then try to rebuild. So I definitely always had a fascination, for buildings and the development and seeing buildings go up.
So you could see it. You had that, like you said, that fascination. And you were brought up in Melrose Park, went to Sacred Heart Elementary School and Holy Cross High School.
Yes, sir, a fellow Crusader. I am a Crusader, and at Sacred Heart High School, actually my father went there. It's a Catholic private school in Melrose Park. A long history, long tradition, and really a great education. Definitely a great place.
And then on to University of Illinois, where you got your master's degree in architecture.
Yes, my undergrad I also attended there, and then also my master's. And with that, definitely saw a different light. Growing up in Melrose Park and in an Italian community, a lot of pride. And I think Chicago itself is a city that has a lot of pride, and Melrose Park as a town has a lot of pride. And going through that and just seeing the difference. There's other people outside the neighborhood, so to speak. And it was a great experience. Just great friends made, and great contacts, great network.
Let me ask you, because there's quite a bit we have to cover, but before we get on, is there any architects or architectural philosophies that you admire?
Well, I definitely got to say, there's so many great architects out there doing so many great works, but more or less, on a local level, I got to give a lot of credit and to a mentor of mine, Phil Kupritz. Phil Kupritz has a studio, K2 Studios, and he's done a ton of urban development, housing projects, many things, and he was also one of my professors. So under his wing and under kind of his design ideas, and always never taught great or perfection in design, but a great project is by great use. If the space is usable and achieves what it was set out for, that's great architecture. So it's a difference than a lot of other professors that I've encountered. But just going to a school in the city of Chicago and having so many great architects as professors, and seeing them and the developments that they did in the city, and just gave a lot of inspiration.
And just being in Chicago, what a mecca of architecture that we have.
You could not ask for anything more. Like a lot of my friends would always ask, they're going to these different schools out of state, and I always knew I wanted to practice architecture. So I'm like, why would I go necessarily to the cornfields or to a place that I necessarily might not get that same thing? And exactly being in Chicago, we're seeing some of just the greatest works being put before our very eyes. So.
Yeah, your laboratory is right here.
Exactly, canvas, our canvas.
And then you started Forza Design and Consulting back in 2004, and at that time you were traditional, if there is such a word, traditional type projects that you were working on?
It was a small operation. Started when I actually was in college. We worked on small different single family homes, additions, very very little projects throughout the neighborhood. People that I got to know, got to meet, and just give this kid a chance. Mm-hmm. So then it developed into a little bit more. I was doing a lot of hospitality things, bars, restaurants, things of that nature, and a fun business, great clients, some really really interesting projects. But then it led to through the years of just being in the grinder, so to speak.
Paying your dues.
Paying dues, definitely paying dues. But I came across one particular client that opened up Cinespace Chicago Film Studios, and under the owner there, Nick Mercopoulos, kind of also I would definitely include in my mentor list. But the last several years with him in developing this project, it's been truly just. It's been a great experience. It's been a great experience and great pleasure.
Well, I think that's what a big core of our conversation would be is what's going on at Cinespace, because I was fortunate enough to get a tour by you of the campus, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just phenomenal. The area, the square footage, the space, the different type buildings. But if you could tell us about it. Why it's an ongoing project and about the project itself.
All right. Well, the original project, we've purchased Ryerson Steel, And Ryerson Steel is a giant steel fabrication and distribution conglomerate. Ryerson exists essentially all throughout the United States, Mexico, Canada, off-seas, all over. This was actually one of their very first facilities. So Ryerson Steel, it was originally, I think, built in 1857. The first structure came about from 1857 till about 1980. Ryerson was an ongoing project itself. So pre-World War II, through manufacturing, building the whole America, whole manufacturing production, and then this facility, over time, as that, more or less left the States, what are you going to do with such a large facility that essentially has so much there's so much historic detail, and they're all original SOM buildings. Now, for people who don't know, what SOM is, Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, they're also doing they just built the tallest tower in the world, Tower Dubai. So they're a firm that extends, all across the world, and they're just doing some great work. So to work on an SOM building was, for me going to school and understanding, who they are, what they are.
As well, right?
They did the Sears Tower as well.
Or is it the Willis Tower?
The Willis Tower now, yes.
Right.
The Willis Tower. So through this whole project, there's Ryerson itself has 60 plus acres of land that travels all throughout the basically southwest side of Chicago. So essentially on Ogden and Western, we're about roughly 3.5 miles from downtown Chicago. So with this whole property, we have all these different views, all these different kind of just generations of architecture, the last 100 years, and you could see through all the way to present, like 1980, and the architecture that changed. Mm-hmm. So with these historic buildings, it leaves, the question, what can you do? What are these buildings? They sat vacant, for several years before we got there, and essentially they were just taking space. I mean, it was just...
And not generating anything.
Not generating anything for anybody. So when we came along, actually the owner, we didn't step into a single property. He just drove down Rockwell Street and just saw, his eyes lit up like essentially the child at Christmas. And he just saw it and he said, this is it. And going from a point where we were only looking for a couple 100,000 square foot facility, we end up with, roughly a 1.8 million square footprint, and then multiple floors of different stories and mezzanine levels and, all these different properties. So it was kind of a real change. But to have that just general idea of big picture. I mean, there's some people in this world who could just look at something for the littlest thing and imagine the greatest thing, in an instance. And that was probably the most impressive thing, that I've learned through, this entire adventure, which I like to call it.
Which is a lot left.
Oh, there's still quite a bit left to develop.
And it's obvious, and it should be mentioned, this is not, as they say, his first rodeo. He's no newcomer to the movie.
No, he definitely is.
Studio business.
He definitely is not. He has a very large film studio out of Toronto, and I believe they're probably around plus 4 million square feet in their Toronto facility. So he's been in the game roughly for about 40 years and has an extensive track record for many movies and TV series. And it's weird to see, but the ambition and the power that this man has, and just to be around that kind of synergy, and it's just a greater working experience. Just knowing that and being a part of something so big, and especially from the ground up.
And this is not just, because we talked about how Ryerson, the empty buildings were not generating anything.
Yes.
This was a whole economic boost to the city, to the state, and obviously it was supported by Governor Quinn, Mayor Emanuel, and previously by Mayor Daley, as well as John Coley and the Teamsters, and also many community groups. Yes,
many community groups. I mean, that list is very long, but I do have to say, the Teamsters were, a vital part of this whole thing, John Coley especially, and just everything, he brought to the table. So, without him, and the governor, it would definitely, would be a dead project. Mm-hmm. But going a little bit back to on, what a film studio is, because there's a lot of, misconceptions or, ideas of, just so to kind of explain that, we're more or less just a glorified, real estate agent to the film business. So a production will come to us, any size production, if it's TV, if it's commercial, or if it's, full motion picture, they'll come to us and essentially say, we need space. Now, space, what goes into a film? Before this experience, but, when we first started, didn't have the slightest idea of everything that it takes and the amount of people, man hours, I mean, blood, sweat, and tears that these people pour into these productions, really no matter what size. So essentially, when a production will come into town, the first thing they have to do is occupy offices. So we'll build out, it's kind of like what they'll call HQ, their headquarters. And inside headquarters, right on the premise, we have so many different buildings and so many different spaces that we can facilitate build-outs and facilitate just essentially placing people very, very quick. And that's another very, very big part of this business is time and delivery. If you plan on delivering, if you commit to a delivery, you better bet you need to stick to that delivery, or it's going to be, the ramifications could be very high. So the whole thing is very, more or less stressful. It could be a stressful atmosphere because, you're not given much time and you have to execute on such a large scale. So a production necessarily, for this film, Divergent, that we have by us, they've occupied over, I want to say roughly about 120,000 square foot of actual stage space, and then probably another 100,000 square foot of different production offices, wardrobe, accounting departments, set deck, set dressing, special effects, construction shops. So with all these different departments, essentially comes a lot of people. And all these people, they're all within...
jobs.
And jobs, the job creator. So like architecture, to me, a lot of people ask, what is architecture? And the definition that I would have of architecture is the two greatest things in the world, art and commerce, and putting them into one. What I do essentially from a pencil and paper to real life, to see it actually get built, to see it go up, and to see an end result, and then to see people use it and how they use the space. Good, bad, and different. Everyone's had their, fair share of great projects. Everyone's had their fair share of disappointment. But it's just that understanding, and then, on that disappointment, taking what you've learned, and then just constantly redesigning. So architecture, for me, I got to say, it started, from, when I was a child, and hopefully it will develop to the day I die, or that's kind of, it goes against everything that we...
That's why it's fascinating that you know so much about the business. I feel like I'm sitting here talking to the head of the studio, not to an architect, because you know what the needs are of your client.
We're a family. It's a family-based business, and once again, we have no titles there. I mean, and it's really, really run, family-based, and there's pros and cons with it all. But at the end of the day, it's a great thing because I've been with this group of guys, essentially the Pisos brothers and Uncle Nick, as I call him now. And, you develop a relationship. I mean, we're working, sometimes it could be 14, 18-hour days, working on holidays, depending on, whatever that deadline is. Essentially, it's a little bit harder on our families, harder on everybody else, but, we have to produce, something. Yeah. And, what we produce, it's so systemic because it just hits so many different people and so many different, economies throughout. So, it's, when you look at it for the big picture, it's, you take a step back and say, wow.
And I imagine along the way, it's senseless to even ask the question, but you're learning a lot about the movie industry that you didn't know because of their needs.
I didn't know anything. Anything about the movie business, or you turn on the TV and you just you see a scene. Well, that one scene that might be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in one area, in the amount of man hours from preparation to to sound, to lighting, to visual. This isn't right. There's so many people that have to go into it. And it's just, now looking back, it's just, you give so much respect and so much credit to, just to anything, no matter how big or small it is.
I know something you mentioned to me briefly, too, of one of the cells of the studios. You've got everything there, They don't have to take leave to go to eat. They don't have to go here to do that. Circulation, and that goes back kind of to one of the main principles of architecture, or what's good architecture. It's circulation of space. So we have these mega buildings that lie anywhere from 250 to 325,000 square foot footprints. So with this existing structure and these existing things, from anywhere from sanitary lines, plumbing lines, electric, having a full understanding and a range of what these needs are going to be. How do we break this apart to fit that specific need, and then furthermore, how do we create something that 30 more productions could use? And that's the true art of it. So with circulation, the fact that from cafeteria to wardrobe to hair and makeup to the actual sound stages to the actual construction areas,
these are all located under one house, and they use just in a circulation pattern so that you can go from one place to another in a very, very, very short amount of time. And once again, this goes back to the productions, making them much more viable, a production being productive. So if a director yells, cut, what necessarily does that mean? Well, if, the main star is hungry, or if they want this, or if this person needs that, having everything under one house eliminates those times. Those times are money, and then it's just, it's systemic from that.
Right, and you said it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars for an hour.
Oh, depending
Per
on,
hour,
depending on the
whatever it
film, depending on the budget, and the numbers it's amazing. It's amazing how much money goes in, into a production, and then when you're seeing it on the inside, when these sets get built, and it's just like, wow, you can see how these things cost as much as they do.
And then another great thing about Chicago, or being where it's at, the proximity to downtown, to other locations, hotels, restaurants. I mean,
It's hard to have. I mean, it's actually one of the biggest parcels of land that close to downtown Chicago. So that was a huge selling point, when we were looking at the property, to actually, have, 60 plus acres, 3.5 miles from City Hall.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. And then using the train, the railroads, and all these different kind of visuals, around you. And it's a real great thing for production, because now, when they come to do locations and things of that nature, you're keeping it, we're trying to keep everything in Illinois, keeping it in the city of Chicago, and then really promoting itself from within, so that we could be, a thriving
which is
movie
kind of like
capital.
circulation on a bigger basis, right?
Exactly.
In that it is, right, at this point, the largest studio outside of Hollywood?
Well, it will boast be, upon completion, will be the largest film studio outside of Los Angeles.
Nice. And I see some of the shows, Boss is presently there? Or
yes, Boss, they did 2 seasons, and then Stars Called It Quits, but that was with Kelsey Grammer, and he was the mayor of Chicago, and it was, if you were able to see it, a really, really great show, great actor. I mean, everybody on that project, from, set designers, just everybody, a really, really great crew, and that was, one of our first, kind of TV series that we hosted. So we were building everything essentially around them, and it was it was a very fun experience.
Is there anything that, well, before I go on, I know Chicago Fire's there.
Yes, Chicago Fire's there.
Divergent is a feature film?
Yes, it would be the biggest feature film in Illinois' history, actually.
Nice.
So I believe their budget's about $150 million, and it will be a production. The book itself was written in Chicago from a girl when she was at Northwestern. So it's kind of like Chicago in this future time. So it's I don't want to give anything away, but it seems the sets that they've created. I mean, they definitely will win awards for some of the most just outstanding stuff. And you saw it's kind of hard to tell anybody necessarily like what we're doing there. It's very hard because people just don't have the size of scale, the ability to read scale.
I mean, I'm so glad. I like to do my homework for my show, but doing that, and I'm telling you, to get the tour by you was phenomenal.
I'm really glad you took the time.
If anybody knows the structure, it's the architect. I wanted to ask you, how does it differ between film and a TV show?
Film and TV show, I mean, everything from what Uncle Nick is kind of explained to us, everything goes kind of like a roller coaster. So you'll be very, very TV series heavy, and then all of a sudden, a couple seasons go by, and then you won't have any TV series, and then it'll just be motion pictures. And then, so that's kind of like a roller coaster. So more or less, the TV series, they're there for a much longer time, because they're building a lot more, not permanent sets, but they're building a lot more because they're stationing themselves there. Motion picture, they come in, and I'd hate to use the term, but more like they're there. All of a sudden, 2,000 people will be there, and then the next day, nothing. It's a ghost town. So it's a very, and you just have to, plan for those peaks, from parking to, there's just so many things that go into it, and it's just, having the administration ability and that master plan and keeping that master plan.
Well, it's got to be fascinating because they move out just as quickly as they moved in.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And sometimes, it's sad. Like we had the show, The Playboy Club on NBC. And the show itself, it got canceled. But just having those people there, and they built a replica Playboy Club. So the 1950s Playboy Club, they had about a $4 million set. And it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. But then a big part of this project is adaptive reuse, from what we've done with Ryerson Steel, the factories, reconverting them into sound stages, giving them a new use by still highlighting, its presence. We didn't, change anything because the structure, everything, the infrastructure, it fits. So from such a different business then to what it is now, it fit. And that's kind of the best part, but the sustainability issue. A lot of projects, a lot of people don't have a real concept of like what green is or what sustainability is. And that's a whole different subject. We could probably make a whole season about what's sustainability, but taking a lot of the existing steel components, reusing that to make reusing that to make structure
within it,
everything within, and then taking that when a show leaves, now they leave all this behind. Well, with all the wood, the different flats, the sets, the walls that make up this, we take this all into archive, and then we give that to other productions, or the ability for other productions, to use, so that you're really getting a one-stop shop and a bigger bang for your buck when you come.
I think just the fascinating thing, one of the fascinating things, that they build that many offices. The office spaces that I saw, well, like you said, they'll build.
Oh, and that was just one, area. We have 12 other areas just like that, and it's.
I think I know something that. That Cinespace is very proud of is the outreach program. If you want to tell me a little bit about that they're doing with DePaul is one of them right now.
DePaul University is a big thing. I mean, the owner stresses if you're creating something this big, you're going to need students. You're going to need you're going to need a workforce to essentially. By the time we're done building, you're going to need a workforce to fulfill all these stages. So with a lot of the universities, throughout the United States, they all have, film classes and, degrees in that, productions and things of that nature, but they don't have any real sound stages to practice in. So what we've done a brokered deal with DePaul, where we've built them, I believe it's roughly a 10,000 square foot stage, of which that their students with a production office, that it's a real functioning place, so that these kids, from lighting to scene deck to construction, so all these different facets, these kids now have the ability to create it, in a real working environment. And then once again, that's a lot of problem with a lot of different degrees. Is I went to school for this, but they never taught me the business. They never taught me this. So we're really trying to, close that loop. And together with DePaul and these other, other universities, we think, we're just going to create an economy in Chicago, in the state of Illinois, to last a very, very, very long time.
You like to call them farming and seeds, I think. That's the way you
best put. Absolutely. It. Absolutely.
And those are people that are going to be around for years to come.
Absolutely.
I know you're a busy guy, but I'll mention too about you've got pronounce the brewery for him.
Lagunitas Brewery. It's a brewery out of Southern California, just outside of San Francisco and Petaluma, and they plan to build. Well, we're actually currently developing a 300,000 square foot brewery, which will be one of the big. Well, it will be the largest craft brewery in the world, and furthermore, that being in Chicago, and it's rare to bring manufacturing back. This brewery at 300,000 square foot will give the ability for everybody. It will have a restaurant and kind of a whole tour facility. So you'll be able to go there and see all the fermentation tanks.
So we don't have to go to Milwaukee anymore.
You do not have to go to Milwaukee anymore. We're not necessarily on the size, of Budweiser. They're, roughly, probably, a multi-billion-dollar corporation. I mean, these guys are, in the $100 million range, but still, they have a great product, and they're sprouting all over the city of Chicago. Lagunitas beer. So you definitely got to try
and that's
that
right
out.
There. Right.
Yes, it will be. Yeah, it will be in the same campus.
Well, that just goes back to saying what an economic boom it'll be for that part of the city.
Well, the southwest side. I mean,
everybody needs it, but they need it.
Who couldn't have it? And I know the owner, Tony McGee, the CEO of Lagunitas, was very, very, very animate. He was originally from Chicago, and the fact that he's able to bring this here, and and the worker force and everything that goes with that, and they actually have manufacturing, bringing it to Chicago, bring it to Illinois. I mean, he had offers, all across the board, different places, different towns. We can give you incentives. We could do this. We could do that. And he said, no. He took a lot of pride in Chicago, and necessarily didn't go back and ask for tax incentives. Didn't go back, and ask for all these things that, maybe a business owner, on that size may feel that they're entitled to. And so it's a great synergy. I mean, the whole project is going to be really, really something amazing for for the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois.
I mentioned earlier about some of the great restaurants of Chicago. I know there's a good one out in Melrose Park called Abruzzo.
Yes, sir. It's my family, actually, my parents' restaurant. It's actually my mother's restaurant. My father's just a landlord. And that
Is that how it's phrased?
That's exactly how it's phrased. They might say your name might be on the window, but that necessarily doesn't mean anything. But it's my mom's little baby. I mean, I worked there, throughout college when we first had it. I believe it's been about 15 years that my family's had it. And my mom, she's a very, very, very hard worker. I mean, she's in there 16-hour days. And the restaurant business, as you know, my hat goes off to anybody who's in that business. Because
and you paid your dues there too as well. I mean, you worked.
Paid my dues from a cook to from on the line to the back of the house, front of the house, waiting, bartending, and that's where you got the real knack of the busy guy aspect, but networking. Having the ability to talk to anybody, no matter what they're about, no matter where they're from. No matter, not necessarily if they could do anything for you, but just the interaction of people. And I think that synergy, together with everything else, really creates ambition. I mean, that's really what it's about at the end of the day.
And the food's good.
And the food's very good. And the food is very, very good. A lot of my mother's recipes. And it was actually an existing restaurant, though. It was there for about 70 years prior, the old Teodori's. Okay. So we took the Teodori, yes, the Division Lounge.
And it's Abruzzo's.net, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I know your heart's there in Melrose Park. You also find time to be a village trustee.
Yes. Actually, I was elected to trustee at the age of 25, and under Ron Serpico. Mayor Ron Serpico has been just a great friend, another great mentor. I mean, the guy really.
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Oh boy. Hello. Oh, I got a busy guy. We're busy enough. Maybe next week, but all right, about 15 minutes. Bye. I got people bothering me during the show. I'll see if I can get them on, but I apologize for the interruption.
But Ron Serpico, he's just been a great mentor, great to Melrose Park, and it's been a real privilege for me to be part of my community, to really take an active stance and just promote that general safety, welfare of the public, and it's my neighborhood, and I got a lot of love, and
I salute you for that, and I know the whole Italian American community, salute you.
Oh, absolutely.
You make us all proud.
Pride, very, very, very proud.
And then also you find time to be on the feast committee.
Oh, I do that for my mother. That's the one deal that I have worked out with her. She goes, you could ask for anything all year round. I don't care. You will always carry the Madonna. And so that's a great tradition, but I believe, I don't know, 130 years, or I'm not sure exact time, but.
Thank you for your time. I know you're a busy guy. I'm sorry,
sir?
I got to leave. I got something for you before I leave, some cannoli. So enjoy them. Thank you, man. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Wish you the best. You're on your way. Let me tell you, you are a tribute.
Thank you very much.
So I got to go.
Busy guy.